What's up YouTube, this is GalacticGod, and I'm coming at you today with a video to talk to you about a current trend that's happening in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now quite recently, adding in 3 copies of Upstart Goblin and 3 copies of Reckless Greed to a deck has become all the rage. Much of this can be attributed to Patrick Hoban, who over the last year helped propel these cards back into the meta. But the power of both Upstart Goblin and Reckless Greed is nothing new. Konami saw the potential might of these cards almost from when they were first released. Now it may surprise a lot of you out there, but both of these cards were limited to 1 for a very long time. So in this video, I want to give a brief history of these cards, their fall from grace and their rise back to fame, and then pose the question to you: should Upstart Goblin and Reckless Greed be limited back to 1 again? Drawing cards has always been essential to the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Whether you're trying to speed up to get to your combos, search out that one card in your deck that could help you OTK your opponent, or draw into all the pieces of Exodia that much faster, cards that allow you to dig into your deck have always been on Konami's radar. Now Upstart Goblin, for example, was limited to 1 copy per deck all the way up until April 2005. This would be the first time Konami allowed Upstart Goblin to be played 2 copies per deck, and it would remain this way for another 2 years until March 2007. When the card became unlimited. Now this forbidden/limited list is also very important because it is the first time that Reckless Greed had went from 1 copy per deck to 2 copies per deck. So in this format, you were allowed to play 3 Upstart Goblins and 2 copies of Reckless Greed. Exodia players around the world rejoiced. Things would remain pretty much the same for at least another year until the March 2008 ban list. It was at this time that Reckless Greed became unlimited to where you could have 3 copies of it in your deck, just like Upstart Goblin. So for almost the last 6 years, duelists have had the capacity to play 3 copies of Upstart Goblin and 3 copies of Reckless Greed in their decks. Now Patrick Hoban was not the first person to try and add consistency to their deck by adding in 3 Upstart Goblins or even 3 Reckless Greeds. Dark World players, for example, have been testing this theory out for many years. But over the last year or so, Patrick Hoban has topped many YCS and ARG events using a wide variety of different decks. But one of the things that many players have noticed in each of these decks was 3 Upstart Goblins. Duelists looking to emulate the success that Patrick Hoban had also started playing 3 Upstart Goblins per deck, thus starting a fad. Players that started using 3 Upstart Goblins in their decks when doing deck profiles would acknowledge this by saying they're playing 3 Patrick Hobans. But with so many duelists now using 3 Reckless Greeds and 3 Upstart Goblins in their deck, is this a prime time for Konami to once again put the ban hammer to these cards? Are these cards bringing too much consistency to the decks they are helping? Are these draw cards too generic and should be limited to 1? Many duelists have come to this realization and expect Konami to do something like this on the next forbidden/limited list. Others believe that using 3 of each of these cards is just a fad and will eventually die out. But with the next forbidden/limited list vastly approaching, it looks like we will not have to wait long to see. In the comment section below, remember to let me know what your guys' thoughts are on Reckless Greed and Upstart Goblin. Do you believe they should be limited to 1 or 2 copies per deck, or are they fine at just 3? And I guess that's it for now. This is GalacticGod, out.